Good afternoon. Today we're going to cover the collection procedures for non-billed items using the Oracle Application Development Framework Desktop Integration, or for short, ADFDI. The first thing you're going to want to do is when you head over to Oracle, you're going to want to head over to the Navigator bar and head down to Tools. Here you're going to see the Download Desktop Integration Installer. You're going to click on it, and it's going to give you a download in your downloads, of which you will click on and open. Here you will go through the normal installation process that you normally would do for Windows applications. Once the installation is complete, go ahead and close out of that window and close this window also. Once you are back in Oracle, head over to your General Accounting tab. Here you're going to find your General Accounting dashboard, of which you will click on, and head over to the tasks bar on the right-hand side. Here you're going to hit Create Journal in Spreadsheet. Once you click on this, it's going to drop a download of the Excel spreadsheet, of which you will click on. Once you hit this page, you're going to want to hit Enable Editing. At this point, you should see this connection window. Once you click yes on that, it should show your typical Oracle Applications Cloud to sign in. Here you won't need to put in your whole email address. All you'll need to do is just put in your first initial and last name and then your password. At this point, you'll get your duo notification and you'll get that done accordingly. All right, at this point, the first thing you're going to want to do when you have the ADFDI open is head over to the Review tab here at the top. Once you have this open, you're going to want to unprotect your spreadsheet. This will allow you to copy from other spreadsheets onto this one and allow you to more efficiently add and delete rows. The next thing you're going to do is head over to the ledger and ensure that it says City of Chattanooga in here. If it does not say this, please get in contact with the Treasury so we can ensure that you have access to the general ledger. The next item you're going to want to fill out is the accounting date. The accounting date needs to be the earliest date of either the bank receipt or ACH. If you have multiple receipts, either ACHs or bank receipts, whichever one has the earliest date is the date you will use. So for example, if you have a receipt that is for June 28th, and another one for June 29th, you will choose June 28th to put in this section. The next thing that needs to be filled out is the category. Here you're going to double click and search for City Collections Reports. I find it easy to use just city-col. At this point, it will bring up the City Collections Reports. It should be the only option. It's already highlighted, so all you have to do is hit OK. The only thing that's left to do in the top portion here is to give a description of what the collection will be for, which in this case is wholesale beer. So we can now finally start filling out the bottom portion of the ADFDI. Now the ADFDI has two features available to it. One, which is allowing you to enter in your information manually, which if you choose to do this, needs to be verbatim. If you do it incorrectly, for example, not having a letter capitalized, it will not register correctly. Which is why I personally prefer the second option, which is just to double click on Fund. It will bring up this window here, which you will then hit the search bar. It will bring up all the fields necessary for you to fill out your revenue lines and bank lines, which we will go over the bank lines right now. Every ADFDI spreadsheet will require the use of bank lines. The bank lines, fortunately, though, are always the same and will never change for each department. Here, all you'll need to do is just type in bank. And if you notice, it's all capitalized. So if you do this manually, it needs to be exactly this way. And then the department will always be 00, and the cost center will always be 6 zeros. And the account will always be 101-501. Everything else will be zeros in the other locations. At this point, you can just hit OK. You'll hit OK again here. And it will auto-populate here in the row down below. At this point, you'll also need to put in currency. Here you also have the option to type it in manually or just double click. And this will also never change and always be USD for the US dollar. So what we're going to do is we're going to head back and we're going to enter in our accounting strings, which will of course vary per department. In this case, my accounting strings will be 1100 under the C for department. And again, each department will have different departments, cost centers, and potentially different accounts. At this point, you'll just treat it the same and hit OK once you have filled out all the correct lines. And it will also auto-populate. Here, since USD doesn't change, you can just simply copy and paste down. Now we get on to the debits and credits, which is crucial to do correctly. The bank lines will almost always be a debit. The only circumstances where it won't be a debit is if you are actually removing money from the bank. This could be from a debit ACH. So in this case, because I do only have one receipt or bank confirmation for the check that was given for this transaction, I only need one bank line. But you will run into situations where you may have multiple bank receipts and multiple ACHs. In these situations, you will need one bank line per ACH and per bank receipt. And for this one, we're going to enter the amount that I have on my bank confirmation. So now that we've debited the bank, we're going to credit the account that the money is going to. Now, fortunately, the ADFDI will acknowledge if there are any errors in these fields. So, for example, if I were to mistakenly forget and put a 0 instead of an 8 in that section, up here in the top, it will notify you that the debit and the credit are currently not balanced. If I were to try and upload this, which I will demonstrate in a moment, it will give you an error. So columns P all the way to T, if you want, you can just go ahead and hide. We're never going to use them. Also, columns V to AB can also be hidden. So under the line description, what we're going to need is pretty much what exactly was the bank line. So if this was an ACH, I would put ACH, and then I would put the date that I got the confirmation or the ACH on. This is not the transaction date that you actually received the payment on. So when did it get to the bank is what the line description for the bank here is for. Now in this case, it actually wasn't an ACH. This was a check. So this one can be shortened to checks and cash, if need be, if you do take in checks in cash. If it's just a check, you could take off the cash. If it's cash, you can just leave cash. And then for the accounting string portion, all that's really needed is just what exactly that transaction was for. So for some departments, there will be multiple accounting string lines that indicate what it was for. So for example, golf course could have golf club rentals, golf cart rentals, etc. But in this case, it's just wholesale beer. So even though I know there's an error here, I'm going to go ahead and hit submit to demonstrate what exactly will happen if you do make an error on the ADFDI that it can catch. One other possible errors that the ADFDI can catch is, for example, if you have a department, if I were to put E and I'd have a cost center with a C, it will not push these through if they do not match. So the next step would be the submission, which if you notice right here at the top, you'll say Create Journal. Once you click on that, it's going to have a submit option here, which will begin the process. Here you're going to change only this portion here where it says yes with validation. Keep this where it is on default, and then you'll just hit submit. So as you can see, it says here that the submit failed and it said one or more of the rows could not be uploaded. So at this point, you can head over and kind of look for where the error is. Sometimes it does a better job telling you exactly where that error is. In this case, it's just simply saying there's an error somewhere, which after looking around, we can go where that error is, and we can make the corrections without having to restart the whole ADFDI. Once you've made your corrections, all you have to simply do is just head back up here and hit submit. When you hit submit, it will bring this menu, and you can just hit yes with validation and then hit submit. At this point, it's going to give you a confirmation. For purposes to re-look at your journal entries, you're going to want to save this number. It's going to make it a lot easier to find your journal once you head back into Oracle. All these numbers are unique, and I do recommend either writing it down or saving it in a file somewhere on your computer. All right. At this point, you can close the ADFDI. Now, one thing I do recommend is before you're just completely exiting it out, you could save this, and that way, if there is any issues, you can always come back and reopen it and make any edits and then resubmit. All right. Once back in Oracle, you should get a notification up here in your notification tab indicating your ADFDI was successfully submitted into Oracle. In this case, I can see that it made it here, but it still hasn't given me the notification. But if you do click on it, it should actively show you it. At this point, you do not want to click approve. You want to click on the blue link here that will open up a new window and will show your journal entry. At this point, you do want to hit approve. And this will give you a new window that will allow you to add any comments, but more importantly, it will allow you to add up your backup files. Your backup files consisting of copies of checks, the actual receipts themselves, the ACHs, and of course, most importantly, the reason why the transaction occurred, be it a contract, lease agreement, just something that shows the city why you got this money. So at this point, you'll just click here and you can add a file, or you can drag a file from your desktop, however you wish to do it. So this one, I have already saved my file, and now it is attached. At this point, you will hit submit. Now, as the creator, your job, so long as everything is correct, is now done. At this point, the supervisors will take over and they will go through a slightly different process.